this month forward, going forward, Israel is no longer playing defense against delegitimization actions against us. Israel is now going on the offensive. I want to shift the debate to European responsibility. First and foremost, standing with Israel against hate, violent threats, and Palestinian rejectionism. I want the Europeans to totally reject the notion that there can be a Palestine in which Hamas and Islamic Jihad are an integral, in fact, central component of Palestinian society. I want to shift the debate to one that accepts that peace is impossible with this type of enemy. I want to shift the debate to where Israel cannot be expected to make any further territorial and security concessions to an enemy that stubbornly rejects the Jewish state and incites their people to destroy us. It seems to me, and where I get this wherever I go, that there has been a lack of affirmative, lack of courage, lack of commitment among many leaders of European Jewish communities to publicly and openly stand with Israel. So what can we do? It has to be fought. It has to be fought hard, and we have to get in their face. It's that simple. It's creative, affirmative action, not silence or lack of conviction. The poet W.B. Yeats wrote, "The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." We have to reverse that in Europe. We have to make the best full of passionate intensity, and the worst, because the BDS are among the worst, to lack the conviction. So let's start in Holland. This activism must be used to lobby your government. The Dutch government issued a travel advisory warning people traveling in Israel to avoid rock-throwing Jews. Just finding something here. I'm going to leave this with you. This is before I came out. There was an article in the Jerusalem Post. The IDF court sentenced 4 Palestinians for rock throwing. The IDF announced on Thursday, that was last week, the sentencing of 4 out of 5 Palestinians convicted of rock throwing that almost led to the death of Siona Kalla. The Judeo military court handed out sentences between 7 years and 8.5 years. Many rock-throwing incidents have caused no injuries, but several have resulted in deaths. So when your government gives out a travel advisory talking about rock-throwing Jews, I ask you, what the hell are they talking about? It's the Palestinians who are throwing rocks. It's the Palestinians who are throwing Molotov cocktails. It is the Palestinians who are knifing and hacking Israelis. This is the Palestinians who are driving vehicles into pedestrians you have to beware of. It is the Palestinians that are firing rockets and mortars, and it's the Palestinians who are digging terror trails to come into our villages and everything to kill our civilians, not Jews. For shame. You have a responsibility to tell your government to deal with this. The Dutch government also had the heartless goal to reduce the pension of a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor who left Holland to spend the last days with her children and grandchildren in Israel. Just happened, it was just over the green line. How immoral is that? Had she survived, ladies and gentlemen, had she survived, that elderly lady could have been Anne Frank. And your government would reduce her pension? Shame on them. Recently, the United Nations vote on child abuse in war zones. One country and one country only was condemned. Israel. You know what the vote was? 104 against Israel and 4 against the motion. And the 4 countries against the motion were the United States, Canada, Australia, Israel. Where are all the European governments? Where is your government? For shame. Israel is the only country condemned by name this year at the World Health Organization's annual assembly as a violator of health rights. How's health rights? We just came back from Nepal. We were in Haiti. We're helping them in Africa. We just this last week been bringing people in from Syria and from Gaza during the war and afterwards for churches in Israel. No European government voted against this motion. Not your government. This is the sort of action. If your country doesn't have the decency, the morality to stand firmly with Israel and against the slander of disputes like this, then shame on you. The Palestinian terrorists are now trying to drag Israel to the International Criminal Court at The Hague in your country on war crimes charges. This is the first time in human history that announced terrorists, are taking an offending country on war crimes charges. This is ridiculous. Your country must find the moral clarity that it has clearly lost. If it can't interfere with the court, it should make its feelings known in the United Nations Forum where it sits if it has any conscience or morality at all. Basically the message is this. For the Netherlands, Israel is Holland's other country, a free, liberal democracy. If your country were placed in the Middle East, it would be Israel. Not Syria, not Yemen, not Iraq, not Libya, not any other country but Israel. If the Palestinians were Dutch, they would have had their state decades ago, and it would be a prosperous democracy by now. But the Palestinians are not Dutch and never will be. So stop apologizing for Israel. Stop criticizing Israel. Stop pressurizing Israel to withdraw unilaterally from territory. It won't bring peace. Bring back the fighting Jew, the persuasive Jew, the courageous Jew, the one that has remained dormant for far too long here in Europe. Tell our enemies here in Europe that you will not tolerate them spewing their anti-Semitic, racist garbage. Remember this, if Europe is not safe for Jews, it's not safe for Europeans. It always begins with the Jew and it never ends with them. We must not fight this battle alone, but we must fight this battle. We need to create a network to defeat a network. Reach out and create a network of truth to counter their network of anti-Israel, anti-Semitic lies. Israel survives with pride because of its heroes. I remember last year the Gaza conflict. It didn't matter in Israel whether you voted left-wing or right-wing or didn't vote at all. All our boys and all our girls knew they had to defend their homes and their families against the Hamas and Palestinian terror rockets and mortars and terrorists, and they went and gave their lives. I was absolutely awestruck by the behaviour of the Israeli public, wall to wall, left and right, who stood stolidly with our soldiers when we came under that attack again. You can trust us to fight and defeat the enemy on our borders, but can we trust you to fight the enemies here in your land? That's the question. Will you keep your heads down, or will you stand up for truth and justice? Will you be a coward, or will you be a hero for Israel? Ladies and gentlemen, the choice is yours. Thank you.